So maybe give me a little bit of background. Tell me who you guys are. Where are you calling from?
So we're calling from Missouri. Shari had an ischemic stroke, left side, on February 8th of this year. She is back home attending therapy 5 days a week.
Okay.
Her leg, or right leg, obviously right side is the issue. The reason I'm speaking is left side brain, this aphasia. So Shari has trouble communicating with others, but we're making great progress. She is graduated to walking with a cane / walker.
Yes.
Her upper arm, however, has not made much progress. They have not done much in occupational therapy at this point, primarily due to a lot of tone in the arm. But we've been using the Motus device for a while, and by a while, I mean a couple of weeks, and have not as yet seen any intentional movement in the hand or arm.
Okay.
So just in checking with you, are we using it properly? What are our expectations overblown? Whatever's appropriate there.
Yeah, no, happy to provide some guidance, I think. When it comes to the sort of rate of change of improvements, it can be very, very challenging. I was talking to John about earlier to kind of know what that kind of slope is. And so I'd say a couple weeks in, it's not entirely unexpected to not see massive improvements there. What I like to do today, if at all possible, we can actually go through and quickly check to see what type of ranges of motion we have now, as opposed to the first time we worked together.
Sure.
So I think we worked together the very first time, maybe a couple of days after you guys got your Motus Hand. So it might be time to kind of do a little bit of digging to see where things are.
Okay.
And with that, I also like to potentially go through and maybe think through some opportunities to maybe improve the efficacy insofar as we think about how we're actually engaging with it and seeing if we need to do anything differently to help maximize what we're getting out of it. Does that seem like a reasonable plan?
It does.
Okay, very good. And so I think you guys are on your home screen right now. So if you wouldn't mind, let's go ahead and hit the telehealth button for me.
All right.
Very good. And just to be clear, Shari, are you able to understand me?
Yes.
No.
Well, you understand what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that if we needed to have a different form of communication, we could probably figure something out. But just wanted to make sure that I'm talking to you as well. Okay, so then let's hit the assessment button for me. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, what do you guys see on the far left-hand side of the screen?
It's around 10, -10,
okay,
and it's kind of fluctuating a bit.
Very good. Excellent. That's just my little bit of a sanity check to make sure we are in the same universe. And so we are, so that's good. Same digital universe, that is. Okay, so what I like to do is a quick 3-step process here. And I like to start off by, Shari, having you move your hand, because your hand is like this. Actually, one more thing I should check. This is a good reminder. Can you guys actually tilt the camera down so I can see your setup with the Motus Hand? That would be kind of a good check.
I can tilt the camera down. You can tell me if I'm pointing it at the hand. How about that?
Sure. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, one thing I can't really tell from the perspective here is, Shari, is your hand able to move all the way down into flexion? I just want to make sure we're not being, I want to make sure that we're not restricted. Yeah. So Dave, I don't know if you can see me, but if you had your hand like on a flat surface like this, you wouldn't be able to go down into flexion. So I want to make sure that we're able to access all the range of motion.
Yes.
I think that's a good setup there. Good setup. Okay. And actually, one thing that you guys can notice already is that the ranges of motion are a little bit different now. You can see that we're almost down to 20 degrees there instead.
Yes.
So I think what can happen is if we kind of, and I can see, Shari, you're kind of holding it a little bit. That's okay. I just want to make sure you're not restricting your own range of motion by holding it.
Okay.
Very good. So just something to be cognizant of. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to have you move that hand down as far as you can. So move it down into flexion as far as you can for me.
Okay.
See those numbers on the left-hand side will go down as far as you can.
Okay.
And like I said, there's no right or wrong answers here. It's just the best you can. And I'm going to have you move that hand up as far as you can.
Okay. Wrist up.
Very good. And this is really common. So if you guys notice this right now, she's actually getting some active flexion there. You see that? The numbers are going down in a more negative pattern. So we're now down to -21 instead of around -19 or -20. So that is telling me that there is some active flexion movement here. But the challenge here is that our kind of, in a simple sense, our wires are a little bit crossed. So what's happening is when Shari's trying to tell her hand to move up into extension, it's actually going down into flexion. That's that sort of miswiring that is very, very common. So I don't want you guys to think that this is something just special with Shari. This is a very common problem to have. And this is basically the coordination of our flexors and extensors is a little bit discoordinated in a sort of simple sense. There's a lot of reasons why this is the case, but those don't really matter at the moment. But this is one of the exact reasons why we need that biofeedback to help us understand when we're doing something that's a bit not needed or not desired. Okay, so next thing I'm gonna have you do, Shari, is just relax as much as you can. And I'm gonna go through and do a quick passive check to see how much range of motion you have. And we'll also evaluate the relative tone in your hand as it relates to last time. So just relax, and you may hear that Motus hand kick in, and that's okay. You let me know if at any point it starts to become uncomfortable, and then we'll stop. And actually for you guys, it's good to know that on the center of that console right there, on the center of your monitor display, you can see that 0 button between the plus and the minus. That will actually zero things out if you ever become uncomfortable. It's kind of a safety check.
Okay.
Sure, you're still doing okay?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So we are already past the range of motion we got the first time. Okay. Pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, this is passive range right now. So what we're seeing here is an improvement in passive range of motion and potentially reductions in that tone. Okay. So it, of course, this is not necessarily active movement. Very good. Very good. I'm gonna drop it all the way out here. So you guys can just relax. So very good. We got to run 53 degrees of movement, which is pretty good. And now, Shari, what I'm gonna have you do is really try to move your hand down again as far as you can for me. Move that hand down as far as you can. Excellent. So Shari, you see those numbers go further and further towards -20? That's all you. So that is active movement in deflection. That is all you. It's very subtle at the moment, Shari, but that's really positive. Did you guys see that on the left-hand side there?
Yes.
Okay, that's really good. Okay, so I think for us, immediate next steps are we're gonna make some modification to the range of motion, and I'd like you guys to actually hit the back button, the top left-hand side.
Okay.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to your actual games. So I'm gonna hit the back button, and then we'll go to home, the top left. And before we jump into any of the activities, are there ones that you were having questions about? Are there ones that are maybe more challenging, more interesting? Tell me about the games that you've experienced so far, and if you have any questions.
The games that we will typically not play the card games.
Okay.
And that's just because, in effect, I'd be doing a lot of the work for her at this point. So let's just do everything, all the other games.
Sure. Well, now, Shari, are you able to move your left hand?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to the card games, then you should be able to play some of them. I think because some of them do require both hands. You have to kind of navigate a little bit. But I think if there's a challenge with maybe reading the instructions or not knowing the games, then that could become a problem. So maybe that guidance is correct, Dave. But I wanted to remind you though that
Yeah.
they are designed to be done independently.
Oh, sure.
If yeah. Okay. So with that being said, maybe I can make some modifications to the actual activities such that they are a bit more appropriate for you then.
Mhm.
So I'm going to take out the blackjack game and also take out solitaire, and I'll swap in a new one. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll do that. So let's go ahead and actually hit the play button for me, guys.
I don't see a play button.
Oh, begin therapy. I apologize. Begin therapy.
Okay. Gotcha.
I forgot where we were in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. Okie dokie. And what we'll do is we'll actually go through a couple of these repetitions. And what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to go through each of the games, and I'll be kind of monitoring the data in the background, and I'll be able to make some modifications as you guys proceed. So we'll go ahead and hit play. And so specifically, you were asking earlier on about, am I doing this correctly? Is that kind of a, is that a fair sort of assessment of what you were asking?
I guess a little bit, but I mean, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of foolproof.
Sure, sure. I think the big thing for you, Shari, too, and this is really, really important. I see that you're bracing with your left hand, and that's a very, very normal thing to do. But one thing I want to make sure is for you to get the most out of it, I think it's very important for you to stay engaged. I understand that you have not a whole lot of active movement. Totally fine. That's what the Motus Hand is there for. But one really important thing to do is to help you stay engaged. You have to visualize your right hand moving up and down. But one thing you can do to help with this process is you can actually use your left hand and mirror. Okay. So whenever your hand's going up, whenever the cues in a game are for you to go up and do extension, you can actually go up with your left hand too and follow that. So that will help cue up both sides of our brain and provide more activation.
Okay.
It's a good tip. I think I'd recommend for most people to do bimanual sort of tasks. And it's also very analogous to sort of that mirror therapy approach where you're using your one hand to kind of trick your brain into activating the injured side.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you guys to actually go through a couple of these exercises. I'm going to go over to my next guest really quickly, but then I'm going to watch the data as it's coming in, and I'm going to circle back around and see if you guys have any questions. But I may be making some modifications, and if that ever happens, you'll see a little indication that says your provider has changed your data or your settings. Just go ahead and hit play again. Just know that that's me making a modification. Okay. So you guys don't have to play each of the games in its entirety. You can kind of skip through each of them if you want to, maybe play a couple of minutes of each of the games. Okay? Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, I think, yeah, of course. And like I said, I'll circle back around closer to the end of Rehab Power Hour, and we can chat about what things are good and what things we may need to actually adjust again. Okay?